When the world throws stones, I can just moan or I can sing. Grateful, grateful, truly grateful I am. And the world has been throwing a few stones lately. It's hard to even conceptualize what's going on. How many things have changed so rapidly. We are constantly just trying to find the new norm, and it shifts again. So here we are in San Francisco and all of California now, sheltered in place, and the rest of the country is rapidly catching up with us. And we don't know what's next. So how do you practice gratitude in the midst of this, in the middle of all this? And I keep coming back to this scripture from St. Paul: in all things, give thanks. In all things, give thanks. And when I first heard that, or first started to wrestle with the meaning of that quote, I wondered, how can you give thanks? I mean, how could I possibly give thanks for the moments of death and despair? How can I possibly give thanks in this moment for the people who have lost their jobs and don't know how they'll pay their rents? How can I give thanks for the untold deaths and that have happened and that are yet to come? And then I read it again. I read it again. And I read it again. And it says, in all things, give thanks. It does not say for all things. In the midst of all things, give thanks. And when I heard that interpretation in my own head, that wisdom, that inner knowledge coming through me, as me, light bulbs just started to go off. Because we all know we've been in situations that don't feel like grateful about. And yet in the midst of them, we can find the good. And there's a story that this whole pandemic has reminded me of. Now, it's a personal story, and it's not nearly as severe as this pandemic, but you know, when you're in the midst of it, there's no degree of separation. It's all relative. It seemed huge to me at the time. I had just moved to California. I was working as an intern at Unity Palo Alto. And one day on my cell phone in Palo Alto, I get a call. Don't recognize the number, but I pick it up. And it's the IRS. And the IRS agent on the other end of the line asked if this was Ken Daigle. And I said yes. And she informed me that they were conducting an audit of 2 past years of my taxes, and that they had disqualified all the deductions from those 2 years. That I'd be getting some more information in the mail, and she double-checked my mailing address, and I confirmed it was correct, hung up, shaking. Now, the details came in the letter, and the 2 years of deductions that they disallowed meant that I owed them $90,000. And they sent this really nice letter saying that you can just write a check and put it in this envelope and send it back. Needless to say, at the moment, working as an intern at Unity Palo Alto, just moving to California, I didn't have $90,000 sitting in my bank account to write a check to the IRS. So what I did is take a deep breath. And I prayed. I called my prayer partner. I went into meditation. I did all of the things that I know to give. And then I remembered this quote: in all things, give thanks. All things. So I got to work about giving thanks. I found ways to be grateful in the midst of it. While I was doing my due diligence, I was going through all my receipts. I'd hired a new CPA. I was examining it. I got a California CPA to see if there was any difference in the laws in California. Went through all of the processes and continued to be grateful. One day it struck me, oh, I need to actually give thanks. I actually need to give them out. And so I took out a thank you note and I wrote the IRS agent in charge of my case a thank you note for the professional way and the clear and understandable communication that she was having and the professional way she was doing her job. And I said, thank you. My audit wasn't complete. There had been no result, but I put a stamp on it. I sealed the envelope and I sent it off to her. Now, I guess that IRS auditors don't often get thank you notes from the people they're auditing, but I never heard that part. A couple months later, I finally got an evaluation from the IRS after I had refiled everything, shown all my receipts again, and my new CPA had taken over. And instead of a $90,000 tax bill, I got a $20,000 refund. $20,000 that I didn't know that the government owed me unless they had audited me, and I had to go back and look through everything and refile. And because I got to refile here in California, I had a windfall because I gave thanks. Rather than fighting or giving up or complaining and moaning, I gave thanks. And lately, I've been trying to look for the good. Look for the good in the midst of this situation. Look for the good in the relationships in this situation. So I'm home with my two kids and my husband, and we're all trying to work from home, with my two babies and my adult son, and all of us in the house together. It's fun, and it is adorable. It's wonderful to spend the days with them. And so for that, I give thanks. Deanne and I had to reinvent the way to do service. And we found some amazing things that we've been talking about wanting to do and explore. And this has given us the impetus to do it. And everybody is coming together to do it together. Now, I don't know what lies ahead. And there's a huge part of me that's scared. But I want to give thanks because I know God, the divine presence, is in the midst of this moment, working, lifting, shifting, connecting, being. A verb. Being a verb. The beingness of God is at work in this pandemic. The beingness of God, the wholeness of God is at work in you and me. The allness of surrounding us every second, every moment of every day. And as I look back on my life and all those endless crises and moments we didn't know how we'd get through, I'm here. I'm here and I'm thriving and living a life beyond my wildest dreams, and in love with my family, my husband, my children, my parents, my siblings, with my community here. Love my job. And I'm not going to let any outside circumstance squash, squelch, or squander that love, that joy, that understanding. For those of you who have taken Absolute Abundance, you know this story because I've told it in Absolute Abundance. But the story of Pollyanna, it's considered a pejorative now to be called a Pollyanna. But in the original book, which was a huge hit in the early 1900s, in the 20th century, Pollyanna absolutely knows what's going on. She does not lead an easy life. She's orphaned at a very young age. She leads a life of real hardship and pain. But her father, before he died, had taught her to play a game, and he called it the glad game. And in any situation, in any event happened in their lives, they would try and find something to be glad about in it. And that has just been reoccurring in my life right now, especially right now. How do I find something to be glad about? Well, I'm cooking all the meals at home. I'm glad about that most days. I'm glad about all of the family around the dinner table. I'm glad about the connections I'm making once again. And I'm glad about the great innovation that's going on in this country. I'm glad that everyone is coming together to solve this problem. And maybe after years of turmoil and fighting and blaming and judgment and condemnation and resentment and pain, we can love again. We can experience the bliss of being with each other again. We can be glad again. So let's take that to our time of meditation.